The real reason Russia invaded Ukraine, from Cold War to hot war. What do you get when a former KGB agent, a rising democracy, and a 20th century military alliance walk into a continent? A geopolitical thriller that's rewriting the map of Europe, live. From the ashes of fallen empires to the icy stare-downs of the Cold War, from NATO's unexpected glow-up to Ukraine's bold flirtation with the West, this isn't just history, it's a high-stakes chess match with nuclear consequences. Why did Putin say peacekeeping but send tanks? How did a comedian become a wartime president? And what does this war mean for the rest of us? Buckle up, because this story has spies, revolutions, invasions, and a whole lot of gas pipelines. Let's unravel the chaos, one twist at a time. Once upon a time, in the shadowy corridors of history, Ukraine was a prized jewel in the Russian Empire's crown. Fast forward to 1917, the Russian Revolution exploded like a vodka-fueled firecracker, toppling the Tsar and plunging the region into chaos. Ukraine, ever the rebellious teenager, seized the moment to declare independence. But like a clingy ex, the newly formed Soviet Union wasn't having it. Ukraine was swiftly absorbed as one of its first republics. No freedom, just communism, and a whole lot of red flags. By the end of World War II, Europe was split like a bad divorce settlement. The Soviet Union took the East, installing puppet communist regimes, while the West embraced democracy and capitalism. The ideological chasm birthed NATO in 1949, a club of countries, including the US and Canada, that promised to defend each other like a superhero squad against any invasion. Spoiler alert, Putin hates this club. Once upon a time in the frosty aftermath of World War II, Europe was split like a bad roommate situation. On one side, the West, with its jazz, jeans, and democracy. On the other, the East, with its gulags, gray buildings, and glorious 5-year plans. To keep the peace, or at least the illusion of it, the Soviets formed the Warsaw Pact in 1955, a military alliance of Eastern Bloc countries that basically said, if NATO sneezes, we all bring tanks. Both sides built up their arsenals like two neighbors in a Cold War arms race. Literally. Missiles, nukes, spies, and enough paranoia to make a tinfoil hat look like a fashion statement. But then, boom, not a bomb, but a collapse. By 1991, the Soviet Union crumbled like a stale babushka's cookie. Ukraine and other republics shouted, "We're out," and declared independence faster than you can say glasnost. The once mighty USSR dissolved into 15 separate countries, and Russia, now without its empire, was left nursing its ego and a much smaller map. While the East was busy breaking up with communism, the West was thriving. NATO, the Western military alliance, didn't just survive the Cold War, it started collecting new members like Pokemon cards. 1999, Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic joined the club. 2004, 7 more countries jumped in, including the Baltics, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, right on Russia's doorstep. Suddenly, NATO's border with Russia was longer than a Siberian winter. And that made Moscow nervous, like someone standing too close to my borscht nervous. Wait, before we dive deeper into this geopolitical roller coaster, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because history isn't just being written, it's being rewritten in real time, and you don't want to miss a single twist. Only Belarus, Ukraine, and Georgia stood between Russia and a NATO sandwich. And guess what? Ukraine and Georgia were eyeing NATO like it was the VIP section of a nightclub. Ukraine became a NATO partner in 1994, not a full member, but definitely on the guest list. Then came the big moment in 2013. Ukraine was about to sign an association agreement with the European Union. Cue the confetti, right? Wrong. At the last minute, Ukraine's then president, Viktor Yanukovych, pulled a dramatic U-turn and said, "Actually, let's stick with Russia." It was like canceling your wedding to elope with your ex. The people were not amused. Hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians flooded the streets of Kiev, waving EU flags and chanting, "Ukraine is Europe. Ukraine is Europe." It was peaceful, it was passionate, it was powerful. Until it wasn't. Yanukovych cracked down hard. Over 100 protesters were killed. But instead of silencing the movement, it ignited a revolution. The people rose up, and by early 2014, Yanukovych had fled the country like a villain in the third act of a spy movie. For 8 years, Ukraine was stuck in a geopolitical tug-of-war with Russia. The eastern regions of Donetsk and Luhansk were like two rebellious teenagers, backed by Putin, armed to the teeth, and constantly stirring trouble. Over 14,000 lives lost, nearly 2 million displaced, and Ukraine's dream of joining the cool kids in NATO blocked. Putin's strategy? Destabilize, delay, and dominate. Keep Ukraine wobbling so it never gets close to the West, like a jealous ex who keeps showing up at your job interviews. Then came November 2021. Satellite images revealed a jaw-dropping sight: 100,000 Russian troops and enough military gear to make a Bond villain blush, all lined up along Ukraine's border. The world gasped. Putin shrugged. Invasion? Me? Never, he said, with the poker face of a man in a tank behind his back. But this wasn't just a military parade. It was a warning shot wrapped in denial. Putin was prepping for something big. Weeks later, Putin dropped his demands like a mafia boss at a peace summit. No more NATO expansion. Roll back NATO's military borders to 1997. Stay away from Russia's front yard. Western leaders blinked. Then they said, nope. Instead of folding, NATO activated its response force for the first time ever, and the US sent troops to Eastern Europe. Putin's bluff? Called. On February 21st, 2022, Putin made his move. He declared the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics independent. It was like giving your puppet a passport and calling it a country. Then, boom, Russian troops rolled in under the banner of peacekeeping. Ukraine declared a state of emergency, and President Zelensky made a heartfelt plea to the Russian people. A war will take away guarantees from everyone. Who will suffer the most? The people. Just hours later, on February 24th, Putin dropped the act and launched a full-scale invasion. Missiles flew, tanks roared, cities burned. Kiev, Kharkiv, Mariupol, under siege. World leaders erupted. We condemn this barbaric attack. Putin chose this war. This hideous venture must end in failure. Even inside Russia, anti-war protests broke out, despite arrests and crackdowns. Neighboring countries flung open their borders. Hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians fled, clutching children, pets, and hope. NATO mobilized. The US reinforced Eastern Europe. But the world treaded carefully because Putin controls the largest nuclear arsenal on Earth. And he wasn't shy about it. Whoever tries to stop us will face consequences you've never seen in your history. So instead of direct combat, the world unleashed economic hell. Sanctions, frozen assets, blocked banks, and military aid poured into Ukraine like never before. Despite the odds, Ukraine stood tall. Zelensky, in a flak jacket, declared, "We are all here protecting our independence, our country, and we are going to continue to do so." The battle rages on. But one thing is clear. Ukraine's fight is not just for land. It's for liberty, identity, and the soul of Europe. If this story gripped you, shocked you, or made you yell at your screen, drop a comment below and let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's most explosive events. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay bold.